All right. All right. Jeffrey Foster,
Here.
Chief Nick Hill, John Cronteras,
Here.
James Riddle,
Here.
Stuart Roberts,
Here.
Jennifer Andrus,
Here.
Brady Wilson,
Here.
Mark Woods.
Here.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, everybody, for joining. I know this is a week later than we normally meet, so I really appreciate everybody making time. Obviously, last Tuesday was a very important day, so appreciate everybody's flexibility in the schedule. Also, welcome Councilwoman Andrus.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Minutes, I did not have any minutes in my packet. I did have two versions of 1103, so I'm not sure, Fred, were there minutes in the packet?
There were not. They're
Okay.
not available for this meeting. They'll be available at the December 1st meeting along with the minutes from tonight's meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. I have no additional communications right now. Mark, do you have anything to say?
I don't. Just welcome, Jennifer. Welcome. Glad to have you and looking forward to your perspective and what you'll add to our commission. So welcome aboard.
Very much. Appreciate that.
Ditto to that.
All
Jim.
right. I have no additional announcements or commission activities other than, if possible, I'll be sending an email out for folks to see who would be willing to serve on a subcommittee for the zoning book that we previously held on the third Tuesday of each month to identify issues, clean up language, etc. And once I send that out, if you would, please let me know if you're interested. Okay, moving right along, old business, we have none. New business, item 1, PC case RZ 20-11-01 Gold Nugget. I believe you're represented by Mr. Abernathy, or is someone else going to be representing?
Yes, this is John Abernathy. I'll be representing. And I'd like to ask permission to share the screen as well.
Okay, you can go ahead, John. By the way, Fred, Chief Hill has joined us.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hey, Nick.
This is John Abernathy, 303 Ascot Road in Homewood. I'm representing the applicant, which is Gold Nugget, and I'll give you a breakdown of who that is, but that's who I'm representing today as part of this project. So this is the townhome project on 18th Street. This is a preliminary elevation here, but I'll get into this more. So this is I know this was handed out to you. We have a few extra slides here. I think what was handed out was from the BZA hearing. So there's a few extra pieces in here, and I'll try to move through quickly because I know it's long and not read it to you, but just try to get our points across. So we're asking for, the property is currently zone C2. We're asking to go to R7 townhome district. We did go to the BZA and had to go twice. The first time we received 3 yes votes, but not 4, which we needed. So we came back and did the presentation you see here just recently here last week and got 5 yes votes. It was a 5-0 unanimous for a 1-foot setback. So this was subject to our rezoning, asking you for rezoning in the council to R7. And so if it's not approved, then we will the property will stay with C2 zoning, which is a 0-foot setback. So a lot of what's in here, again, not to bore you, but we got a lot of these questions after the first presentation to BZA. People wanted to know who I was, who our company was, what we've done, who the owner was. And so a lot of what you see in here are questions that we received. Not trying to bore you, just trying to give you the information that we've heard other people want to know. And so the owners are Gold Nugget LLC, which is 4 individuals there: Dan Lovell, Mike Graham, Steve Graham, Benny LaRussa. Dan is on this call from the ownership side. And then we have a agreement together to develop this property. So we are the developer, Blackwater Real Estate. We're in Vestavia. And I have Philip McAfee, who's director of planning and construction. He's on this call too, in case there's something that I cannot answer specifically that you may answer. So this would be the development group. Our group is primarily a commercial developer. So in town, we built Patton Creek, over in Hoover, Lee Branch on 280. We built 3 of the public centers in Vestavia. The most recent would be Liberty Park that just opened this year. So that's what we primarily do, but we also do a lot of mixed use stuff. And so this would be something that, you know, that we would handle and do for our. This is the existing site, not much to say here, other than I wanted you to see a lot of the, which I'll show you more of the easements and some of the existing improvements on the site. This is hard for you to read, I know, but there's some just to show the existing grades and the ditch that runs between there in that ditch area is steep. So just one thing I wanted to point out, the ownership group in 2008 gave the yellow portion to the city of Homewood. So there was some vacation of a couple of old road beds that were not ever built on the property. And so they were vacated by the city. And in exchange, this ownership group gave the city, donated the city this portion of the property, which is a hillside, primarily steep, but and wooded. And so this is, just want to call out the ownership group's generosity in doing this, and the additional, I guess, buffer it would be from anything that might be behind us. This is to try to show you some of the hardships that we went with the BZA on, just to show you why the developable area is so small. The green is sewer and red is storm, and blue is Birmingham Waterworks Board easement that while we can in concept build over the green and maybe even the red, the blue, we cannot disturb in any way at all. We have to stay off the blue area. And so that limits the depth of this property to a very, very thin 30 to 60 feet at most off of 18th Street, which is why we went for the setback variance. Again, this is coming into Homewood from Birmingham, what you see on the property. This is the condition it sits in today. There's the asphalt, and you see the kudzu, and it just, you have a hill of rock on the left, and you have this on your right as you come into Homewood. There's an old garden center building there. And then this is leaving Homewood, going back up the hill. This is what you see on the left side as well. So the current zoning is C2, and I know you saw in the package some stuff about commercial, and you're probably wondering why are they showing us all this when they're asking us for residential. But we were evaluating what we were going to do on it. So obviously zone C2, we spent some time looking at what we could do. And so just thought it was important to show you what is allowed on the property, just kind of as a full picture. We're not saying if you don't approve us, we're going to go build these things, but whether it's us or someone else, someone could build these things or would build these things if this is all that's allowed to be built on it. So there are obviously some things like car washes and convenience stores and other things that, you know, most people would say would be less attractive to be on the doorstep between Homewood and Birmingham. So this is, if you were trying to do an office retail use, this is kind of what would fit with the parking, 3,000 feet, or you could do maybe 2,000 feet, 2 level, 2,000 footprint. But that's about all you could do under the zoning and under the parking requirements. And this is, we have had a car wash reach out. This is kind of one of those small car wash uses that you would go through. You have bypass lane, and this would be an in and out. And this is kind of what a car wash might look like. And then there's also, if you've seen in Mount Brook, they have that small gas station. There's kind of a small footprint gas station. This is similar to what you could do on the property and still meet. Again, it has a 0-foot setback, but meet code. And this would be kind of how, these are just things we looked at. Again, not trying to do anything other than show you things we looked at. This is how a fuel truck would come in and out. Just trying to look at what options are available on the property. Again, I'm not trying to claim this is attractive. It's maybe just to convince you it's unattractive to have a gas station on that property. So this is our plan that we're requesting for you under the zoning. What we would like to do is a townhome, an 8-unit townhome. And they're angled because that's really all we could do to get the garage and get somebody in and out. That's how thin the property is. We had to angle it to fit it in. You will not be able to see this well, but just to show you that we've been thorough, we've been working on grading plans and how we would grade this out. Same thing with utility pans, how we would serve this with utilities from the rear.
And for the commission members that may not have gotten this, this should be in your packet, and it's going to be right before the letters from the utility companies.
Yeah. And so, again, happy to answer any questions, but again, don't want to just bog down in details if that's not something you want to talk about. This is a preliminary elevation, probably is not, some of these things are not in your pack, but this was just a black and white as we looked at. I put it here just because it has about a 30-foot height on the top, on the roof under this elevation. I think the limit's 35 feet in R7. So this is a 30 feet, and what the elevation would look like, basically 10 foot of floor. And the first floor would be a garage. This is that same elevation colored up. Again, it shows 6, but it would be 8. And it just shows some of our first looks. I mean, we thought about slope roof versus flat roof. I mean, we were thinking about all those things. We just haven't designed anything at this point. We were just trying to give you some perspective of what it could look like along the road with doors and screen walls, since we are going to be right up on 18th. I know different people may have different opinions about materials or looks, and we certainly will be spending some time on that ourselves if we're able to get through this, but wanted to show you what, perspective-wise, what it could look like. We had some questions at the BZA, so I'm going to show this in here about the street frontage. So this shows kind of the southbound lane, double lanes of 18th, and then how the curb and gutter and sidewalk is, and then the right of way. And then this is a cut looking from the front door of the townhome through a screen wall to the right of way. There would be points to the townhome that would be closer, and you can see that in this next one, this corner here would be closer to the point, but that cut was kind of from the front door walking out. There were some questions about the front door at the BZA, so we added some screen, a small gate to that screen wall, which we would probably have ended up doing anyway once we got into this further, but a small swing gate, which would help contain that area as well. And again, you have a 5.5-foot sidewalk outside of that property line closer to the road. Traffic, we did have some questions on that. And so bringing that to you, we did reach out to the DOT. They confirmed no jurisdiction here. And so we did speak with Greg, city engineer, and to date, we have not received any questions or feedback from him that would say this is not a reasonable, development, and that the roads could not handle this, or anything that would be site distance or otherwise that he had concerns about. We did not hear them expressed to us. It felt like it was a feasible plan. We went and took the trip generation manual that the traffic engineers do, put it this project, typed it in. And so this is in an AM peak hour, 7 to 9. I think that's 7 to 9 AM. It spits out 4 trips, 1 in, 3 out would be a max peak hour. And then the PM, I'm coming home between 4 and 6 trips, 4 in, 2 out. And then that's the average daily traffic that would be projected, 59 trips, 30 cars in and out each day on this development. And then by perspective, if you put in something like a gas station, you've got 822 cars versus 30 cars utilizing that property. So obviously a significant difference of traffic between the two zonings. We down zone, I guess, to less intensive zoning is what's being requested. These are just a couple of new slides, and I'll be done. Just some of the things that we see and would argue, for about this development, about the rezoning. One, I think we would all agree it's sitting in a somewhat of a blighted condition today. It's unattractive. and what you see in the asphalt and the kudzu and these kind of things. So it would be a first class clean development when finished. If you've been on the property, you'll see some slopes where Birmingham Waterworks easement is, where they control. There's some pretty steep slopes on their easements, and there's really nothing controlling those things. And so through this development, we would be controlling that through, we have a small guardrail proposed on the back drive. So this would be something that would be further protection there and safety. Similar to the condition, this is a primary corridor that we all travel between those two cities. And so it would just be a significantly different, from lighting to appeal to just everything that you feel going between the two would be completely different in this corridor if this was developed versus where it was. And then I would argue that it's going to encourage some more redevelopment through that area. There's some other vacant property, and there would be some, our investment plus others would just help with progress there along that market. Our target market, this is kind of where we feel like it would go. So ground up construction is expensive, as you know, materials are even up more right now. So our rental rates are $2,500 to $3,000 is probably where it's going to end up. We're going to do everything we can to get it as low as possible. But that's where we think it's going to end up. And so, you know, this is kind of the target market. You don't really have a family. You know, we're one bedroom, and the rest would be 2 bedrooms, very smaller bedrooms. So you're not really looking at families necessarily. You're looking at retirees, empty nesters, people constructing things and renting this for some period of time, and more, you know, single tenant, you know, divorced. They want the school system. There's all reasons why people would move into these, but a lot of professional downtown or roommates. That's where we feel like is probably going to be the majority of those renters. And so don't feel like there's any impact or very little impact to the school system based on 8 units. Again, we feel like a desirable use, more desirable than some of the things that we've shown you that could come from commercial. So less intensive traffic use, less traffic turning movements on 18th. And then just personally feel like you've done a lot of great things on 18th. I think it's great the way it's been narrowed down some and much better feel. And I think this would just continue to do that by having something clean and safer on the road and promote people walking up and down this road. It just feels like it would make it more of a walkable feel to that whole corridor. So with that, that's our presentation on our request, and here to attempt to answer any questions you got.
Great, thanks, John. So typically at this point, we're going to open it up for public questions before we get to commission questions. So for members of the public that are on Zoom, and hopefully, we'll say hopefully, some of us may be more familiar than others with using this feature. So there's a raise the hand. There's also a chat feature. If you have questions, please either type them in the chat or use the raise your hand, and we'll call on you to ask them. I would ask that you limit your questions and comments to 2 minutes to provide ample time for other members of the public, residents, business owners, whomever it may be, to ask their questions. And then I'll also ask Mark to help me write down any questions and make sure we address them for the public after all of them are asked. So right now we'll open it up. Any questions?
Looks like Mike E. raised his hand.
Okay.
Hey,
All right.
thank you.
And if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Michael Intervold, address 1709 25th Court South, so not too far to the west. Or there. And my question is basically, is there any future likelihood of making 25th Court South join onto 18th, or just even, you know, connectivity from the neighborhood, whether it be walking or you know, vehicular traffic up into that area? So Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right. Okay. Any other questions from the public at this time? All right, Brian, I'm not seeing any other hand go up and or chat. Unless
I'm not
missing
either.
something. Okay. All right, if there are no further questions from the public, we'll close the public portion. Mr. Abernathy, Mike's question relating to connectivity from 25th Court to 18th Street South. I'm not sure if that's really something in your purview, but could you address that?
I have to candidly say, I don't know where 25 Court South is. It's not part of this property. Is that a city right?
It's right, actually, it's behind you to the southwest. So it's essentially where your easement overlays, right? So those two roads that were vacated essentially previously would have probably connected that court to, could have connected this court to there.
Okay.
And I think to Mike's question, and Fred, Vicky would be able to comment better. There are, and I don't know, John or Brian, if you can throw back up the easement slide that shows the inability, I guess, to build over those due to the waterworks there.
If I
Is,
can
I think,
share,
one
I'll pull it back
question.
up.
Yeah.
You know, that same question was brought up back when those apartments were built behind what was the old Board of Education.
Correct.
Maybe that is still there. But those apartments that were built back there was still some discussion of could they join it. At that time, this question was brought up, and I don't believe there was a physical way to do it due to the Birmingham Waterworks easement. There wasn't a physical way to join it to 18th Street at all. To build a size road that you needed to. There was discussion back at that time. They did build I think at that time we gave away an easement area that we had to build a walkway from those apartments onto 18th Street. The city gave that at that time, but that was the most we could do to connect those two areas.
Right. And I think what you can see here, and this is hopefully addressing the question, is this rather large blue waterworks easement. You're only seeing the portion that's within the applicant's lot. However, if you look there to what would be the south, I guess, eastern corner, you see where the waterworks line comes through his property, which I believe is right along the line of the old 25th Court South road that would have been there. And so likely what will happen is if anything would be available to be built from a city perspective, it would need to be approved by the waterworks, either a road and or a sidewalk. I'm not sure how restricted they are with even sidewalks disturbing land above their easement. I don't know if
Nothing can
Vicky
be.
or Fred. Yeah, I mean, they're very, very prescriptive.
We met with them, and I can just tell you what they told us, which is they'll allow nothing. They don't want somebody walking across it. That's their bridge, I believe, that's there. I'm not sure why they put that there. I think it was they had people crossing, but they told us they would not even allow us to plant a tree.
Right. So I think that's a great suggestion about how we can be more connective with 25th Court South. So I think longer term, we just need to think about that. And obviously Councilwoman Andrus is on the Zoom. This may be something she can take to her subcommittee as something as a question. Okay. I would like to make a couple other comments just for the record. There were approximately, I believe, 11 emails and or letters sent into the city in support of this project from various residents and business owners in and around this property. Again, all in support of it. And the plan, in addition, as Mr. Abernathy pointed out, it was reviewed and approved for a variance of 1 foot by the BZA contingent upon a rezone. Another point I'd like to make out, and Mr. Lovell may be able to comment more on this, or Mr. Abernathy, is that when the land that was donated, if you'll go up one slide, John,
Yes.
thank you. Right. Here, this was donated to the city. And as part of the donation, I believe this also, the city took this, but also this creates a buffer to the neighborhoods behind there, which is significant. In addition, I believe that part of this was donation included a sidewalk improvement for anything that was developed across this. Is that correct? So the sidewalks would tie back into what we're doing on 18th Street. Is that correct?
That's correct. The agreement says that we will put a sidewalk and connect on both ends, even though it goes to the Birmingham, I guess, north, but we will connect to whatever is coming from the city up.
Right.
Yes,
Great.
it does.
Okay. And thanks for confirming that. Let's see. Any other comments or questions from the board? I know Nick's on here from City Fire Department.
Yeah, I actually do have a couple questions. Thanks for asking. First off, I think it looks great. I think it's a good plan. I know this has been tried once before. I have a couple concerns. I know the backside of these, there is not enough room to have a fire department access. So we have to have access to the middle. If there's 8 units, how wide are these units?
Pull this back up. How wide are they?
Correct.
It's going to be, I can't tell you exactly. It's probably about 30 feet.
Okay.
They're not very wide.
Right. So if there's 8 units, if they average 30 feet, that puts us at about 240 feet total, 120 feet to the middle, front to back. If they're 30 feet, that's going to put us a little bit over the limit to have access to the back by just stretching a hose. Plus, because of where the drive is, the fire truck's not going to be able to drive up to that point because it's really not wide enough for a fire truck, because a fire department access road is 20 feet wide. That being said, I think we can still work with it, but you may consider sprinkling these units or either making a small walkway from 18th Street somewhere in the middle and dividing some of these units, maybe like between 4 and 5, so that we have fire department access to the back of the building.
Okay.
I think sprinkler might be the best looking option, but that gives you a lot of leeway if you sprinkler them.
Yeah. We did
but I don't
discuss
know.
sprinkler, but it was a cost issue as well, and trying to keep everything we were doing is just keep rental rates down.
Sure. But we still got to meet the code no matter what. I mean, we can't really not meet the fire code. So, but sprinklering is certainly a good option. And plus, residential sprinkler systems have come down. But I know when I met with a gentleman before who wanted to do something similar to this, what we talked about was between units 4 and 5, like I say, just putting a 5-foot walkway and allowing the fire department to pull up to the front right there on 18th Street and accessing it that way. In addition, you're probably going to need to plan on installing a new fire hydrant right there. I don't know how close the closest fire hydrant is, but you're going to need to be within 600 feet if it's sprinklered, 400 feet if it's not.
Okay. Hopefully we could break the building then. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah. We don't want to, I like it. I mean, I think it looks good. I think it's a good plan. I just, either way, rather than you come up at the last minute and not be aware of it, I don't want to catch you unaware.
Thank you.
Because the last gentleman that proposed this, we talked about it at length, and he knew all the options, but I think it's a good plan, and I do appreciate all the effort you put into it. So that's the only thing I have is fire department access to the rear.
Hey, John, this is Philip. Just to answer one of the questions raised, there is a hydrant on the southern end of this property. So we're definitely within 600 feet, definitely within 400 feet of an existing hydrant. So if that helps, but just throwing that out there for the one question.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew it was close. I didn't know exactly where it was.
So can I ask a procedural question then? Just, this is my first meeting for the folks that are presenting. Thank you. If we make a motion tonight, then do we have to take Nick's, do we make that contingent on what Nick has said?
Yeah, it's going to be contingent upon Nick's sign off, no matter what. I mean, he's either got to split the building or sprinkle it.
Okay. So in other words,
Yeah.
we approve, based with, and then it goes to council in its new iteration based on what Nick.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Well, I
Hey,
think.
John?
That's something we would also, obviously, to get a building permit, have to get. So.
Hey, John.
I think it looks amazing, and I did have the question about the sidewalk. Would you be restoring that sidewalk there? And you answered that, so
Yes.
that was the main question I had. But I think it looks fabulous.
John, I'd like to ditto what's been said about the looks. It is a great looking project. I think y'all done gone far and above to get this to fit there. Looks great. I would like to see a different roof style on it, maybe a hipped roof of some sort, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that was James Riddle for the record. Previous to that was Councilman Andrews. And then Mr. Cronteris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. I may have missed it because I'm not having such a good connection. But John, is this going to be condominiums or apartments?
Yeah, it would be, I didn't say that. It would be a rental product. So it would be an it's a townhome product, but it would be kept all together. I know some people come to you and say, we're doing townhomes, we're going to sell them, and then they don't sell, so they rent them. So I know all that can happen, but our intent is to keep it all together, keep it as a one project managed by one group, and it would all be a full rent product, similar like the old duplex type of projects, maybe.
Yeah, and the price range on the 2-bedroom and the 1-bedroom would be what price?
So it would be, we think, between 2,500 and 3,000. It will all be dependent at the end of the day upon the final development cost, and then we'll set the rates.
No, that's all I had, John. Thank you.
Mr. Cronteris. Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, hey, John, I'll echo what everyone else has already said. I think these look great for that area. But more than that, I want you to come present to my family the next time we're taking a vacation, all the bad options so that they'll choose the option that I want them to choose. You do that very, very well. And I'm going to go ahead and let you present that to my family next time, John.
Okay.
John, I want to say something else. I'm probably the oldest person on the meeting tonight. And I remember when that place used to be a restaurant, and it was one of the best restaurants in the city of Birmingham.
Yeah, we've got
some.
I'm
serious about that.
It is Vulcan Restaurant, John. Yeah. They used to apparently sell live chickens there before that as well. So
I know. Yeah.
You probably remember that, John. I don't know if anyone else will, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, I did have a quick comment. I did want to thank you for the traffic information. That was exceptionally helpful, especially for me reading this. So just for everyone that is on the Zoom that can't say, this would be a one-way in, one-way out with the entrance on the north side of the property as exiting as you head south down the hill into Homewood, just so in case anyone can't see that. That was discussed, as well as the traffic volume here for these units being no more than apparently on average 30 per day. As this is a development project, I want to do make a question and a comment, and actually see somebody in the chat has the same thing, is assuming this is approved tonight, what is your proposed timeline for development? When do you anticipate breaking down, and then I guess first unit built, last unit finished?
So we were told at BZA we had, I guess, 6 months to pull a permit.
Yep.
If we can get through this and through the city council, we would start design immediately. We've designed most of the site, but start designing the buildings and work through that. And so our break ground would most likely be, coming out of winter. If we pull permits by then, March, April, May, right in there. We're hoping that material costs go back down after they escalated during the shutdown, but that would be our timing.
Understood. All right. Okay. Are there any additional questions or comments from commission members?
One other question, James Riddle here. The additional parking for guests, is that my count, maybe 5, 6 on the south side of that? Is that what that is?
So the as drawn, we have 2 per unit, and that includes the garage, and then we have 2 extras. Obviously, one of them's a 1-bedroom, and there may be not everyone needs 2, but so the visitor parking is at least 2, hopefully 4.
Right.
We talked about double parking down on the low end, maybe for just double parking, just to have maybe 2 people could pull in that would leave at the same time. So.
All right. Thank you.
Good. I did want to make one comment. I think there's potentially also for folks that have a little bit of concern about stormwater runoff. There's obviously the easement there, but I think there's also under consideration a little green space in the back, if that can be worked out with the waterworks to help with also, some backyard type feel. But again, that would be in that area of the buffer, which is very substantial. So just for folks that may have a question about that, there is I think potentially that option, so that it's not just all hard space right there.
Mr. Foster,
Okay,
just a quick question. Ingrid pointed this out too, that I heard 1 bedroom for one of the units. I didn't really hear a range of each of the units and number of bedrooms in each unit. If we could clarify, it'd be helpful. Thanks.
So obviously I can't commit we won't change this, but today they're all 2 bedrooms, except for one, which was a 1-bedroom. And as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were all alike, all the same floor plan. 7 was a little different. It had 2, instead of 1 parking space, it had 2 parking spaces. And then unit 8 was a 1-bedroom just because of how tight it got. So because these units are 3 level with a parking garage on the first floor, it's rather tough when you get to the 3rd floor to try to get both bedrooms in. So we're still in the give and take about what's most important in each of those units.
Okay. Are there any additional questions or comment? Again, that was Brady Wilson who asked the previous question about the size of the unit.
I will just make one more comment. It's Jennifer Andrus. I think that this serves a market right now that we're not serving right now. I really think this is something that would just fit nicely into our housing situation here in Homewood. I think it's unique and something that we need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. Is there a motion from any commission members on this RZ 2011-01?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve RZ 20-11-01.
Okay, that is from Mr. John Cronteras. Fred?
I second.
That is a second from James Riddle. Fred, would you call a roll?
Okay. Chief Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes. Your application is unanimously approved. Thank you again for an excellent presentation. This looks great. I just want to second all the other commission members' comments on that, and looking forward to see it done and developed and finished.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, moving right along. We're going to go to, this is actually, I believe, items 2 and 3 are by the same presenter, Ms. Sellers. So if you would, and then there's no objection from the commission members by way of voice vote, I propose that items 2 and 3 be combined for presentation as they are part of the same project essentially. Any objections?
Mr. Foster, I have no objection to presenting them. These are certainly adjacent properties. They are not a part of the same project. I just want to be clear that I've been hired by 2 separate clients to present this tonight, and they are adjacent properties. They would like to have the same zoning, so they're certainly in concert on that point. But one is looking at, well, I can go into the details in a moment, but they're not a part of the same project.
Well, so this is actually raises a broader question I had earlier today about the development plan for both of these items. There wasn't a development plan in the application that I saw. And as you go from any zone to mixed use, that is outlined in our zoning book as a requirement. And I don't know if Vicky is on or Fred want to make a comment about this.
Right, yeah. Again, I don't know if Vicky's on. She should be able to respond to that. But as you pointed out, yeah, the zoning ordinance under MXD does call for a development plan, and certain criteria are to be included in that plan.
Correct.
Can I be heard? Can y'all hear me at all?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We usually have trouble with my microphone. I have an inquiry into Mr. Kendrick, but however, if you're familiar with these properties, you know that they are already fully developed. The buildings, the parking, everything's already there. So in staff conversations, we said, you know, what is to submit. There is no construction, there is no grading, there's nothing to be done other than what is already there. So again, I have a query into Mike about it, but that was the feeling that in the discussions I had with Greg regarding this application, it's kind of a moot point what the topography is because we're not grading anything. It is what.
So just to be clear, Ms. Smith, the determination is that this is an amendment to a final development plan and that these changes are considered minor?
Not really. If they were really minor, you know, they would be, you know, they'd be handled in-house. But no, yeah. It was that the components of a development plan were served by the submitted as-built, as it stands, existing conditions drawings that you have before you. The buildings, there's no question about building location. They're already there. There's no question about number of parking spaces. They're already there. So again, I have posed the question to Mike. Hopefully in the next couple of minutes, y'all can go ahead and get a presentation and all, and I can get okay. But that was the gist of the in-house conversation, was that there's nothing left to be developed that's changing there. Like I said, there's no building to be shifted left or right or back or forward. They're already all there. So again, that was the in-house discussion. I'm following up as we speak with Mike.
So my question, if I might, would that deem the need for a waiver of the development plan with these points taken?
I don't know. I don't know that you're actually, I mean, we will have a development plan on file. Should this progress, there will be a development plan on file with building location, parking spaces. as far as I know, I don't know of a building plan that we had before us that we're amending.
Right. Again, I take your point, but I mean, as I read the text, you know, on a zoning application, a development plan containing the following information must be provided.
You are correct. I mean,
I understand completely your point. So I'm not wanting to belabor this. I mean, I'm fine moving ahead with the presentation, just as long as the applicant's understanding that depending on advice from city council, I'm not sure that we should vote on this tonight without that being determined. I mean.
Well, we looked at it, Mr. Foster, with the Alta and the surveys that y'all have, and I think we felt like, given kind of the state of.
Yeah. Again, I'm not commenting on the state of even the concept. I'm more concerned with the procedural and making sure we do this correctly.
Sure.
Mr. Foster, it's Brady Wilson. Can we consider moving to 20-11-04 and reconsidering this at the end of the meeting if Mr. Kendrick responds in the next few minutes?
That's the applicant would propose that. I'm happy to take that.
Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm sorry, do I need to make a motion then, Mr. Foster, to?
Yes, that'd be, thank you.
So a motion to consider to table just to the end of this meeting, 20-11-02 and 20-11-03, and consider 20-11-04 immediately.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson and I believe a second by Councilwoman Andrews. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion passes. Okay. So we will move to PC case FD 2011-04. Tim Lucy Design Associates LLC, 2719 19th Place South. This is a request for a final development plan.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, so I'm representing Dunn Real Estate and the project, we're calling this the Faulkner Building Retail. Hopefully everybody's got the set of construction drawings in their packet and our development plan. Also had a colored rendering of the proposed front elevation. And I'll try to make this brief because I know it's getting kind of late and you got one more to do. And I also have Chris Hoyt is with us on the line, and he can comment as well. But so this is the old Bob Whitley building property. It was previously two pre-engineered metal building warehouse type. Well, Bob Whitley was in the front. There was a warehouse in the back. It was all a completely paved site, so it existed previously. And we sent some photos earlier of what the property looked like before. Hopefully they didn't come in too late for everybody to get a look at it. But anyway, what we're proposing to do, those buildings are already taken down. We submitted in for permit and have a demolition permit and a grading and foundation permit in hand. And so we're kind of, we may have gotten the cart a little bit before the horse on it, but I believe what we're here about tonight is two things. One is the parking off of 19th Place South, the pull-in parking, which we include that. There's, I believe, 6 of the 10 businesses on the road currently have the pull-in parking. This property had pull-in parking before we tore it down, and what we're proposing to do is go back with a smaller retail building with possibly 3 tenants. We're talking to one right now that would take 2 spaces. If they follow through, that leave one unused space. And what we're proposing to do is drive in one side, have parking in the front, parking in the back, and then drive back out the other side as the site plan indicates. And And so we've also submitted our landscaping plan as well, which proposes to get the 5 trees required for this size property. And so really with that, I'll turn it over to Chris if he wants to chip in a little bit on that.
Yes, so for the record, this is Chris Hoyt. I'm president of Dunn Real Estate, address 3900 Airport Highway, Birmingham, Alabama. So I've been to you before over the years, Mark. I see you out there. You were there when we redid Green Springs, the old Mazer site. So we're Dunn Real Estate. We're part of the Dunn group of companies in Birmingham. I think y'all know who we are. We've been around almost 150 years. We're a family-owned business, and we love Homewood. We love it for its long-term prospects for commercial real estate. It's a great location, and whether you know it or not, we have continued to acquire properties in Homewood and redevelop them, and not only for our benefit, it benefits the city, of course, but it benefits us as well. And this is just a continued iteration of that. On the corner across the street from the Arby's, where the old Richie had his law firm, we redeveloped that, and where it is today, it's a 3-tenant building with Susan Gordon Pottery, Dreher Physical Therapy, and Law Orthodontist. So what we're doing is just a couple hundred feet down the street. We tore down that unsightly building. We're coming back with a brand new building. We have a tenant for 2/3 of the building. And this is just a continuation of our plan to invest in Homewood. We aren't developers because we're building for our own account. So we're building quality stuff that we plan to own for the long term. As a family-owned business, that's what the owners want. So all we're asking for is approval of this plan. We think it's an improvement to the area. Majority of our parking is going into the rear of the property, and this is just a head-in parking, as is all over Homewood already. Driving to the front of the building, our handicap access, and just a handful of parks, but the majority being in the rear. I'm excited about this project, and I'm here to just ask for your approval and let you know that we're here for the long term, and we're not doing anything to just build, flip, and get out of town. So we're invested in Homewood and want to do the right thing for us and you at the same time. So that's my sales pitch, but it's really not much. I don't want to try to sell a deal because I think it's a good project, and I hope you'll feel the same way.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hoyt. This is a public hearing. Again, if anyone from the public would like to ask a question or comment, Mr. Woods and I will jot them down and ask the applicants directly. Please use the raise your hand feature or the chat feature to ask your question. And I'll ask Brian Wallace to help me flag those that raise their hand or type in questions.
Doesn't look like it.
Yep, not seen any either. All right. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Hoyt, Mr. Lucy. Are there any questions from commission members for the applicant related to this project?
I had a question, James Riddle here, earlier, as far as the parking, as I understand it, in our zoning book, it calls for no in and out parking off of the main streets in this area. Is that something that would need some type of waiver for, or is that something that's already been taken care of that I'm not aware of, as well as the lot variance for the 50,000 square feet? just questions, not trying to throw a knot in the rope because I like your development, Mr. Hoyt.
Well, the building's 4,800 square feet, not 50,000 feet. So I don't think you
I
should
was
worry
talking
about.
lot.
Oh,
lot size.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That might be,
we weren't aware, this is Tim Lucy. We weren't applicant. We weren't aware of anything relative to the lot size that was an issue. We actually were open to the idea of going for a variance if required, but we were kind of advised by the building inspections group when we came in to go through this process as I don't know whether it's streamlined, but we were open to the other as well. They thought this would be the better way to approach it.
right. And with that being said, and this would be, as I understand it, with the development plan, would be in our purview for just a waiver. So it's a matter of just a document to take care of those things. But you would have to ask for that if that's the way we need to go. Ms. Smith probably could answer that better than I. And I may be totally off base with this, but those were my questions.
I definitely think that's what we're asking for is a waiver from the head-end parking with the acknowledgement that 19th Place South is less heavily traveled. So the danger of backing out of a parking space is minimized as opposed to other areas in town where maybe the ordinance was intended for. And then the fact that we would really, if approved, we would be the 7th out of, I believe I counted that right, 7 out of 10. So over half the businesses currently have pull-out parking into the street currently. So it seems to be a precedent had been set with respect to that. And again, for us, it really comes down to the development doesn't work for us as a retail development if we're not allowed to do the pull-in parking because the site is so small. There's no way to get enough parks to attract a tenant for a retail space without that front space, just being able to pull right into the front door and have those spaces available. So it was kind of a big deal to be able to get it. And again, time is of the essence since we're kind of already under construction. I believe this was an attempt to sort of streamline the review and waiver process. But if necessary, I think we're all open to going before the variance board if that's what's required to.
Well, and the reason we're under construction was we were issued a foundation permit, so it was a little, as the owner of the property, I was a little sidetracked by realizing that we got a permit. We've started construction and this came up. So yes, I know Tim as my architect, right there in Homewood, has been working with the officials there to guide us through what is the best process.
Hey, James and other commissioners, maybe y'all can help with this. So let's talk about parcel 2728, which is directly across the street from this parcel that we're talking about. That was torn down and redeveloped, I guess 2 years ago, maybe 3 at the max. When did we make that call where there was no off-road parking to the front of the building to that area? When was that decided? Because that building was redeveloped and the parking was put all in the front of that building at that time. When did we make that change to 19th Street?
I'm not sure. That's what I would like to know. I'm not sure it's when that happened.
I don't think it was a change. It falls under, I think, either Article 6 or Article 7 of our zoning book. Now, the question I think Mr. Riddle is asking, and I think is the appropriate one, is much like the property you just referenced, Mr. Woods, is does the Planning Commission, which has authority, as I understand it, over development plans, can they grant the waiver to that article? Is that correct, Mr. Riddle?
That's what the question was. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and my reason for asking the question I did is to the architect's point and to ours that we need to be uniform in what we do, that the building across the street was allowed that off-road parking, and it was just recently redone, is what I'm getting at. So I'm trying to understand when the regulation was put in.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then that would, I don't know when it was changed, if it has been changed recently, or if it just was not followed. I don't know.
Mr. Woods, are you referring to the building that was renovated that Mr. Pope was talking about across from Arby's? Is that the one you're speaking of?
No, I'm talking about the building that is directly across the street from the property we're discussing. And that used to be, I forget the gentleman's name, he owned it forever, and it was a eyesore, and they tore it down, and it's a 2-story, well, it's built for office space and other stuff. We actually looked at it to put a branch of our bank in there, and I don't even think it's fully rented yet, but that one was redone. It couldn't have been more than 2.5 years ago.
It was actually done, I believe it was done at the same time, or if not slightly after we did the building across from Arby's.
But again, that building
Okay.
across from Arby's did have to get a variance to have parking off the 19th Place South. You did go forward and receive the variance to do that side parking. Do you remember that?
We did, yes.
Yeah. So that.
And well, then I think that goes back to reason. I think that needs to be requested then, just to follow conformity. I don't think we need to make one-offs. If that's been the case, then I think we need to follow procedure and do the right thing there. I mean, I'm all for this. I'm all for this property, and I'm definitely for this development. I like what they're going to put there, but I think we need to follow uniformity and do what we've done everywhere else.
Just follow procedures. I mean, I like it as well. I mean, I don't want to allow this to put a hold on it. I would like to see us, if it's in our purview, to grant these variances for him tonight and let him proceed with his construction.
And so, y'all, I'm being honest with you. I'm in a real spot here. I really am at sort of your mercy. I'll be honest. I have a tenant and I have a completion date. So, this has been it was a curveball to me, not knowing that. I mean, when we were issued our foundation permit, I thought everything was good, and it wasn't until literally just a couple of weeks ago that this popped up. So,
well, understand, Chris, we're as you can hear us all, we're all approved. Well, I won't speak for everyone, but at least a few of us are in agreement that this is a good opportunity, but we can't change the rules, or we have our rules and what we're required to do. And to Mr. Riddle's question, I guess we'll have to ask and find out the details. If we can vote on that tonight to make those changes, then so be it. But if it needs to go through the BZA, then we've got to follow the correct chain. Would you agree, Mr. Foster?
I believe
that is exactly my read on it. I guess my question is as we have approval of our final development plan versus a variance, I'm assuming based on Fred and Vicky, the other property that was done across from Arby's, they had a variance and came in with the variance on the development plan. That said, I still am not certain that the Planning Commission cannot provide that, I guess, waiver as part of the development plan.
That was kind of, I hate to interrupt, that was kind of our understanding from Vicky, was that we could, because of the bind that we were in on schedule and time, because we were already under construction, she recommended that we come before you guys for this because it could be expedited without having to wait for the BZA. So we were kind of under the impression that the Planning Commission had the authority to approve it that way. And she actually kind of rushed us onto the agenda, which we really appreciate. We appreciate the city working with us on it.
And Tim, wasn't it also because we, unlike the building on the corner, which was really we didn't tear the building all the way down. It was really reconstruction. We were preserving an existing building. I thought somewhere in the fine print of the Homewood Code, which goodness knows I can't recite to you, that was different than what we did.
I understood it was also because we were not requesting a rezoning.
Right. Fred, are you aware, or do we need to ask Mr. Kendrick what needs to be done? I mean, do we have that authority?
I'll defer to Vicky. I know she's online with us on that since she's zoning supervisor.
Vicky? No. We cannot hear you.
Vicky, there's no audio.
Now we can hear. It was
I
faint.
can't.
Don't know what you're saying.
Hey, Vicky, you may have to use a megaphone. We can't hear you.
She's calling you, Fred, I think is what she said.
There you go. We heard you then.
Okay, oh, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's my opinion because you are a recommending body and we're talking about a development plan and that you have the authority to recommend this development plan with this parking. However, obviously subsequently it's going to go to the city council who clearly have the authority to either approve or they can approve the development plan without, let me back up. This isn't a rezoning, so it's not going to go to.
Yeah, this isn't a rezone. The development plan lies with us.
Yeah,
All right,
stops
so
you.
it is a development plan, so yeah, I'm wishy-washy on the whether you can grant a true variance. When there's a rezoning and with the development plan and you go and it's a package deal, both where the buildings are located, the parking, the full development. I'm okay with that. But I'm not sure about something that's clearly not allowed that y'all can grant a waiver to. Listen, I've tried to call Mr. Kendrick. He generally is available by phone. I'm not getting him. And so that does bother me, but what will that do to you, Mr. White and Mr. Lucy? Because
Yeah, Vicky, before we ask Mr. Lucy and Mr. Hoyt that question, let me ask you a question. So this is C4B, correct?
Yes.
And so I'm looking now at the zoning book here, and I'm looking at C4B for where in Article 7 was your concern being raised? This isn't a mixed use. This isn't a land preservation district.
Jeff, I'm reading the same spot you are. I don't see where we don't have the privilege to do that.
I think we do.
If I read the book like I'm reading it, there's no reason we can't say that that's approved based on that.
When I was doing my development, the waivers came through the planning commission.
But I'm not an attorney and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I would defer.
So, Vicky, can you hear me at all?
absolutely.
Is there in Article 7 off-street parking requirements and loading requirements?
Yes.
What section is giving you heartburn?
Section K. Section K provides for that parking.
Section K.
requirement. Yeah, Section K. That's where we're coming in with the need for BZA or some sort of variance.
Yeah.
In Section K.
I just think this is in our purview to do the waivers, in my opinion.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Mr. Riddle.
Vicky, you cut out. Did you say you agree or disagree?
I agree with Mr. Riddle because it has been the precedent.
You're breaking up, Vicky.
She said she agrees.
Could you type your hey, Vicky, could
Yeah,
you
thank
type
you.
your answer in the chat feature?
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that. That may be most efficient.
She may be at that Arby's drive-through ordering.
Right.
I could hear her. I think she says she agrees.
Yeah.
I'm
She said-
serious. I'm not kidding. I'm
I
not.
She
think she
says,
did
I
well.
agree with Mr. Riddle.
I think she did as well.
She just typed it. It says, I agree with Mr.
All
Riddle.
right, she agrees.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
All
Okay.
right.
So that's in your purview now, Jeff.
All right. All right. That fair enough. Additional questions. So let's just circle back on this. The parking, we believe based on the advice from the zoning administrator, the read of the book, the final development plan, and therefore the parking requirements come under the purview of the planning commission as a summary. That may be subject to change on advice of city attorney, but for right now, that is our working hypothesis.
For what it's worth, sorry to interrupt your public officials. What we just raised, the parking was, what we're coming back with was the exact same parking that was
It
there.
has
in the
nothing to
first
do
place.
with extra or less or anything like that. This is strictly a
Procedural.
Procedural, again, same question.
Okay.
Similar.
10-4.
And this is Stuart Roberts. I'm the person on both the BZA and the Planning Commission. And I've been quiet because I've been perusing the zoning regulations to try to find an answer, and I can't. So waiting for me to chime in. I am a lawyer, but I'm not I haven't seen anything that prohibits us from doing what is being suggested in terms of granting a waiver. But I'm not as versed as Mr. Kendrick is in the zoning regulations.
Okay. All right. So let's circle back on the parking in a second. Are there other questions, comments from commission members related to this case? I know we've been on this for a little while. I want to make sure we give commission members ample time to ask questions or other comments they may have about this.
What about the fire marshal? Is he or
That is
Nick?
Mr. Riddle for the record, asking a question if Nick has any questions or comments.
No, we looked at this last week and they met all the requirements. We have full access to it. It's
Great.
going to be fine.
Great.
Any other commission members with questions or comments for the applicant related to this?
I have a question. I'm sorry, again, to the applicants. This is my first planning commission meeting as a city council representative. Jeff, if you could, for my own edification, what is the issue with the parking? It's not the number, it's the access from the street.
So in section Article 7 of the zoning book, it states that essentially you can't access the parking off a street directly. And that's what they would be doing off that 19th Street there. So if you go to section K, unless it says dwelling unit, right? So that is the current question. That said, the planning commission has approval over development plans under which parking falls into that. So now there's a little bit of not a discordance, but a gray area about should there be a variance, or does the planning commission's approval of a development plan laid out as it is such with the parking off of the street constitute a approval of their overall project. I personally read it that way, but that's my read. And I like Mr. Roberts said, I'm not Mike, and Mike has far more experience than I do, but my read of the zoning book, Ms. Smith's read as the zoning administrator also agrees with that.
And so just again, I apologize for taking your time on this. Just the alternative, what it's saying, what the code is telling you it wants is a driveway entrance into the parking lot per se versus coming straight off the street.
Correct. Yeah. Some sort of right. That would be the only thing. Now that said, right. That's really what it is.
That's what I wanted. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ms. Andrews, we've got both.
I got you.
Oh.
Okay. Your parking in the back is accessed from the back. Is that right?
You access it from a wraparound drive. So there's parking in the rear and parking in the front.
Yeah. And so again, I guess in my perspective on that, you could make an argument that you do have off that sort of drive. That said, I understand your concern about needing the frontage parking for your retail customer, or your customers for the businesses. All right. Assuming my interpretation, Mr. Wood's interpretation, Ms. Smith's interpretation, and Mr. Riddle's interpretation is correct, which the Planning Commission has authority over the development plan here, subject to, obviously Mr. Kendrick chiming in afterwards and making a final determination. Are there any other questions or comments for the applicant right now? Okay, there being none, is there a motion for this case? FD 2011-04.
I move to approve.
All right, we have a motion from James Riddle to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mark Woods to approve. Mr. Goodwin, would you call the roll?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I thought you mentioned something about having an answer from Mr. Kendrick. Not going to happen while we're voting tonight, or what's going to happen about that?
Ms. Smith has reached out to him. If Mr. Kendrick comes back, this will have to be contingent upon his, I guess, okay of this, our interpretation.
Okay, so we're voting depending on the answer of Mr.
Correct.
Kendrick?
I mean, that's the only thing I know to do right now, given the hour and the current situation.
So the applicant understands that this is not a final approval?
Yeah, this is Brady Wilson. I disagree. I think we're voting to approve. And
I think that's my
motion's been made and seconded.
That's fine. I'm fine with moving ahead with that. I'm just, as a point of order, I want to make sure that's clear. Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second to approve.
Okay. All right. Chief Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, your request, your application passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
No, thank you. And good questions. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes because,
Mr. Holt,
you know,
if I might try to answer your question about your foundation permit, those are normally issued in a manner that it's up to the contractor or the owner or the builder or whomever. You're building, whatever you're doing is at your own risk.
Okay.
Until the final approval of your construction.
Understood.
And that's what I've been in construction a long time, and that's what I've always had to do, and that's what I've been told.
Yes. So you understand, we're trying to fast track a job.
Sure. Hey, I understand.
There.
No, we appreciate also your commitment to development in our city. Very much so.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Well, we're going to keep on trying. Y'all keep up doing your end. Let's, we all do well if you keep Homewood a great spot.
There you go. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Smith, related to RZ 2011-02 and 03, have you heard anything related to this? Okay.
She says, so far, still no response from Mr. Kendrick by email or phone.
I was reading this, and Ms. Sellers, I hope you understand. I'm not intentionally trying to be difficult about this. I'm just I'm very real person.
Yeah, no, Mr. Foster, this gave me some time to look over the altas that we did submit. And I think, if I'm correct, the only thing that is missing from the list development plan is the topography and perhaps the landscaping.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I pointed out earlier today in the email. Missing, as well as one of your surveys seems to be old. I had trouble reading the date on it, and that was my only other concern.
Well, if we could just maybe talk about what these are. I mean, let's take 75 Bagby first, because
so before we get on that, let's just make sure you state your name and address for the record, and then we can begin RZ 2011-02.
Absolutely. Melinda
Official
Sellers,
presentation.
Burham Foreman, 420 North 20th Street, Birmingham, Alabama, 35233.
And Ms. Sellers, before you go any further, Brian, her audio is breaking up a little on my end. Are you getting everything?
Yes, it's fine on my end.
Okay, I apologize, Mr. Foster. Let me know. I can try to.
No, I just want to make sure for the recording it's good.
I just want to make sure the stove is turned off behind her so we're safe during the rest of this call.
Lots of plastic food behind me. And ABCs. I'm super embarrassed that my work computer is not working. I just wanted to lead though with this development plan, making sure that everybody understands that the building and the parking and everything that you see on that Alta for 75 Bagby is what is proposed to be turned into a charter school. And so there is no proposed, site plans or here's what we intend to come, because this is a renovation of an existing vacant building that, as I understand, has been vacant for a number of years. I came before this commission, I believe more than a year ago, on some vacant property that is subject of the next case, 55 and 65 Bagby, to rezone. We rezoned that to C5 from C1. I hate to switch back and forth between the two, but they do sort of go hand in hand in that they are located on Bagby Drive, which is, you may be aware, has been kind of a tough spot to generate activity in. And if you go up to the top of Bagby Drive where the cul-de-sac is, there's some mixed use property up there. So this request to go to mixed use is not, not a far stretch. When I was hired for 75 Bagby to come in and ask for this, I reached out to my client from a year ago who's adjacent, who said, yes, I'd like to go to mixed use as well. So it kind of provides for some continuity up Bagby to go to mixed use. It would allow for this charter school that's proposed at 75 Bagby. And at 55, 65, there's been discussion with Virginia College coming back in. That's not firm, that's not confirmed. That's something that they're entertaining. So a school proposal for that site as well. I know that's confusing. They are not being developed together or by the same people though. So I would just ask that, given that these are, the charter school is much more firm now that approval than the other site, but I really think this area needs some activity, and mixed use opens the door much more so than C1 and C5 where they are right now.
Okay, are there any, we'll open this up to the public first for RZ 2011-02. This is 75 Bagby Drive. It is currently zoned C1. They are proposing it goes to mixed use. Are there any questions from the public? And I would like to talk about this case first with the public related to 75 Bagby, C1 to mixed use. Please use the raise your hand or the chat feature.
Not
Brian,
seeing it.
yeah, I'm not either. Okay. All right, we're going to close the public portion. Okay, public portion is closed. Are there questions from the counselors, commission members related to 2011-02 C1 to mixed use?
I have a question for, again, my own edification. Why mixed use and not institutional?
That was an excellent question. I also have that same question.
Because the charter school at the time that we submitted this application had not been approved by the state. And I didn't want to have to come back before you all and ask for yet again another, rezoning request. Mixed use allows for the charter school and other avenues that would generate income for the city. So I went with mixed use because I think that's the best for this property. Also, like I said, up at the top of that cul-de-sac on Bagby is mixed use. And because the adjacent property owner said they would like to go to mixed use as well. So that just seemed like the logical choice.
Yeah, institutional though is also right to your, I guess it's your west as well.
Yeah, as I understand, that used to be an old college.
It is.
That's
Church.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was looking at the zoning book earlier, and I guess my question, I have a little angst about granting mixed use as without a, you know, again, a development plan. In the event though, because if we give you mixed use, and I'm just a little concerned about that, also the age of the buildings, what's going to happen, and then coming back and having to file an amendment plan later on, you know, because of either site work's done, there's something with the building.
Like I
So
said,
right now, you're essentially the application for 75 Bagby assumes that the existing building stays. There will be no changes to the exterior, other than minor changes, maybe paint. There's no changes to the site itself, as such as landscaping, lighting, sidewalks, anything like that, which again would all come through with a development plan. And the assumption is this is minor, and I'm just, that seems
Sure,
like.
refresh, of course. Yeah, like you said, painting, things like that, kind of. I really think the only thing missing from the Alta is topography. And like Ms. Smith said earlier, we know how the building sits and drains. And I mean, it's been there many, many years. A topo is very, you know, expensive to obtain if it's not really going to change, if nothing's going to change to the topography. I do agree with you. I've looked on here. I'm not sure that I see landscaping.
There is not.
But obviously the
magnifying glass trying to find it. So
yeah, obviously the landscaping's been in for many years as well.
I know, but any refresh and things like that, you know, again, this is more of a procedural concern I have about the exact text of our zoning book. And that very specific language that it requires a development plan to be reviewed and approved. And especially since I'm the one signing it, I want to make sure it's correct.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult here. I just want to make sure we're doing everything consistently and correctly. Any other?
Looks like Vicky's with Mike right now.
So as it relates to 75 Bagby Drive, are there any additional questions from commission members related to this property?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
That is John Cronteras.
Yeah, this is John Cronteras. Yeah, assuming that in a number of years from today, the charter school is not successful and it has to close its doors down, they're going to be able to do condominiums. They're going to be able to do apartments. They're going to be able to do all of that kind of stuff that allows in a mixed use. So would that be any restrictions for future usage on this area?
No, that would be with mixed use and allow dwelling units. That is correct. And that would be the same. You have the similar question for 5565. That would also be the same answer. It would allow for residential development.
Without them having to come back for approval, like a site plan approval.
Well, that again, that's the issue too with residential development. That to me is a major change, which will require amended development plan, which again, all that stuff will be laid out, but without a current development plan showing how they're going from commercial to mixed use. And I again, Ms. Sellers, I take your point about the items that have been provided. That said,
Yeah, they would have to come back if they're going to do anything like that. What we're saying is it's a charter school to go in the existing building as shown on what's before you.
Sure. Yep. Again, though, again, I'm sorry to harp on this. The requirements, again, being very textual. There are some things missing here that we would absolutely hold other applicants to provide. You know, now again,
are these things that can be added after as a contingency on the approval?
I don't know. Good question.
Ms. Sellers, if I might ask, are these buildings, apparently they do have fire protection and all those things in it, right? Correct?
I am not sure exactly what they have because I'm not sure exactly how old they are.
Yeah. What are, excuse me, for Jeff, do you remember the percentages of remodel to a building that would
Yeah,
start the
correct.
need for the updated
Yeah,
landscape?
you go down to page 98 of the zoning book, minor changes, blah, blah, blah. No change authorized by the owners may increase the size of any building or structure by more than 10%, or change location or structure by more than 10 feet, et cetera, et cetera. All their changes and final one, including changes to site plan and in the development schedule, must be made under procedures that are applicable to the initial approval of a final development plan.
So there's that final development plan, Ken.
Mr. Foster.
Yeah.
Mr. Foster, this is Nick Hill. Hey, I believe if you look at the chat, Vicky's answered the question. She said she got a hold of Mr. Kendrick.
Good.
Okay, what does it say?
Thank you, Nick.
Yep. Also, while we're talking about reading that, the fire protection, there is no sprinkler system in the building itself because when it was built, it wasn't required.
Right.
Plenty of private fire hydrants right there, so they're well equipped with fire hydrants. But as far as I know, the building is not sprinklered.
So that
Depending on the travel distances for a school, then they may or may not need it.
Right.
Just
Okay.
depends on how they got the classrooms.
Thank you.
Mm. Now, that's for both properties, which we're talking about 75 Bagby right now. And really, I guess to Mike's comment, he said the purpose of the information requested is to answer unknowns. With the existing as-is situation, it is not necessary as is known. However, if a college or charter school does not go in, then we've got more unknowns, right? Am I thinking
We
through
would,
that?
we would need to come back with a development plan for something different.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Hill, I did just confirm that they will be sprinkling the building.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on 75 Bagby 2011-02 C1 to mixed use?
I did want to note for the commissioner's information, we included a recommended land use plan right behind your zoning map, and you'll notice in both 75 and the other case that those sites are recommended for a mixed use. So that's, it would be.
Well, yeah, is that from the 2007 master plan, Fred?
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
So
those-
it is consistent.
Yeah, well, there's some language right above the map in the 2007 plan that sort of says these are not proposed or approved, et cetera. This is simply, I mean, more.
Yeah, it's a guide, right, it's a guide.
But just, I take your point on that. Mhm.
So as I understand it, if the schools don't go in, they have to come back with any.
Correct.
Change in
This is for the charter school only. So there's not a green space, playground, anything like that going in.
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of on the plan.
Okay.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, this is Nick Hill. On page 2, it's my understanding that if the charter school doesn't go in and we've changed it from C1 to MXD, it is still zoned as MXD. Even
It's
if,
MXD. There's no coming back.
Right. Which I think is, truthfully, I think is better, and it gives them more flexibility. I mean, that's been vacant a long time. I've been here 31 years, and it's been vacant
I'm
most
not
of the
arguing that.
time.
I'm more concerned about the signing of the development plan and being procedurally correct in what we're doing. And again, there's a lot of, there's not gonna be green space for a school, that would change this, there's not, but I appreciate yeah, that's fair. Mike said, you're basically, and again, this is, and I also want to be very clear to you, Ms. Sellers, our vote tonight is a recommendation. The final rezone would go to the council for review and approval.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions on 2011? Okay, do we have any motions for 2011-02 from any commission members?
I move to approve the change to the MXD.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Riddle and a second by Ms. Andrus.
All right. Chief Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes. Your case 2011-02 passes for the charter school.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2011-03, this is 5565 Bagby Drive. I'll open this up now to the public for any questions or comments.
None at this time.
Right, we'll close the public portion and move on. Are there any questions for council members? This is 55 and 65 Bagby Drive, C5, which we rezoned, I guess, a couple of years ago to MXD. And this would be for the potential use of a college.
These questions would be pretty much the same as on the other.
That is correct.
So I think we answered those, or Ms. Sellers did.
Are there any questions or comments from commission members related to 2011-03?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I guess I'm confused. Are we approving the specific usage or we approving to change this regardless of whatever?
We're making a recommendation to rezone from general business district to a mixed use district for use as a potential college.
Yeah, but I mean, when we change it to mixed use, that means they can do anything they want to under the mixed use.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct, John, but you remember they come back to us for development plans on whatever they decide to put there.
Well, I agree with that, but I mean, it's kind of confusing that we are approving the use and we're not saying definitely approving the MXD, because actually, I mean, if tomorrow morning they change their mind for some financial reason or some other construction reason, I mean, they can put there a hotel.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Contreras.
Yeah. Okay.
That it would be, it would fall under whatever is allowed in MXD, which is our least restrictive zoning.
Hey, John, I would say that we need to think about where this property is, and this is definitely an upgrade for that area, and it gives it a more opportunity for that to be used for something. I mean,
Well,
but I've been here 50 years and it's been an eyesore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I live here 56 years. I know it's been an eyesore, but, I just had the question because, to me, the request should be to change this to mixed use and not to a particular usage.
Yeah, well, that technically is the request. They're requesting a zoning change, and the basis for their zoning change is going for this piece of property now is to go to a charter school, which they feel confident will be coming in.
All right, okay.
But again, to your point, Mr. Contreras, that could change tomorrow and they would have the zoning, but they would have to come back with, I guess, a development plan.
Yeah,
And again, we
okay.
are making a
Yeah, that's-
recommendation to the council based on this, what's being presented here tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from commission members related to this 2011-03? Nick, did you have any comments about fire, sprinkling, anything like that, similar to the last case?
No, college is a business class and it's not required.
Okay. That's crazy. Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, we have a motion to approve from Mr. Woods and a second from Mr. Riddle.
All right. Chief Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes. RZ 2011-03 passes as well. It goes before now to the city council for their review for the final zoning.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, absolutely. And thank you for your patience as we work through that.
No problem. Thank you.
I do appreciate everyone's patience with my idiosyncrasies of the text. So I want to thank everybody for the time tonight. Regrettably, this went longer than I had hoped, but again, thank you all for hanging in there and getting through this. And again, for your commitment to our city.
Jeff, thank you for your leadership and attention to detail.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, guys.